What's up, everybody? This is a Sports Leak podcast. Back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got Amanda, the co-host, back on the show. Great to have you, Amanda.
Always good to be here.
And this is a fun one. We got to watch the conference championship round, 2023 NFL playoffs, and we got two pretty good games. The first one, Chiefs Ravens. This was the year, right? This we all expected. Even the national media, a lot of people were picking the Ravens to win. It seemed like kind of a down year for the Chiefs, and the Ravens had been so good all year long, and really kind of no-showed in this game, huh? At home too.
Yeah, they picked a really bad game to have a really bad game. I mean,
Hmm.
and I had said in our preview that I was concerned about their run game getting going because they were playing the 28th ranked run defense. So this was the game to make sure their run was rolling, and they don't have much of a run game outside of Lamar. And I mean, they only ran the ball 6 times against the 28th ranked run defense. So I mean, I
The game plan, right? What was the game plan?
I don't know. I trust John Harbaugh. Like if you asked me to pick, top five coaches in the league who I would expect to be able to pull off a win, he would be in that top five. But
Hmm.
I don't know what happened. Like what I understand you don't have like the Lions run squad, like you're not like a top ranked running back duo situation, but like you don't really need that good of a running back against a run defense that's that bad. So
Yeah.
I don't know what they were thinking here. I mean, the receivers were awful too. I mean, it was drop city. I saw so many drops in this game.
Yeah, and so yeah, I agree. I think that Todd Monken, for as much praise as he's gotten after taking over as the OC for the Ravens, uh, his failure to adjust, and I feel like the Ravens haven't really had to adjust all season. They've
Mm.
just done what the game plan is, done what they do, and never really had adversity all season long. And to get into this game, and early on, I think they tried to run on the opening possession and got stuffed, and it's like they just gave up on it right then and there.
Yeah.
They go, and I was surprised. So the Chiefs win the coin toss and they defer, and I was like, interesting, because if I'm the Chiefs, I'm gonna give the ball to Mahomes and go try to put up seven right away. They give the ball to Baltimore, but it works perfectly because then the Ravens go three and out,
Hmm.
and that was just a bad omen right off the bat. And how about this for the Chiefs? Eight straight playoff games now with an opening drive touchdown. They just know how to get out to fast starts.
Yeah, and we've seen that work for them. I mean, I like that they deferred. I think that they know that they have a strong offense, that offense can get rolling pretty easily. And I think something that we saw with the Chiefs this season is they had to adjust their game plan throughout the season. Like the Ravens just won games. They didn't have to change anything. They played really well, everything clicked, and they won games. So there wasn't a lot of adjustments. There wasn't a lot of like postseason scares that caused them to reevaluate. I mean, the Chiefs had some pretty ugly losses this season. So I feel
Hmm.
like they had to work out those kinks to make it into the postseason. So they were very aware of those weaknesses and of their inconsistencies, and they addressed them. While the Ravens just kind of thought they were invincible and just kind of rolled through the season without making a ton of adjustments, like you said.
Yeah, and to me, this conference championship weekend was experience. Teams that have been there before and fought through adversity and know how to win big games, and two teams trying to prove that they can win the big game, right? And there was just more pressure on the Ravens, I agree. I was unhappy with just six carries combined for Justice
81
Hill.
yards.
Yeah, and Gus Edwards. And then where was Delvin Cook, right? He was supposed to be the special weapon, the late season addition that could be a big factor in the playoffs. And he didn't even play in this game. And what I don't understand the game plan at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was the only time this season they didn't put up at least 100 yards on the ground. Like they had 81
Yeah.
yards total. And I mean, There was a couple epic plays. Lamar had the best completion of the game off that tip ball, caught it himself, ran it for 13 yards. That was beautiful. What a great
Mhm.
highlight that would have been if, they had turned that into something and gone to the Super Bowl. But
He
like,
almost took that to the end zone too.
yeah, like what is the point of having a cool play if your team does nothing with that possession or the following possessions and doesn't win the game?
Well, missed opportunities were huge in this game. The Zay
Hmm.
Flowers fumble at the goal line.
He was a mess
Um,
in this game.
yeah, that was a
Taunting
chance
call,
to.
fumble on the goal line, injured his hand all in the same drive. I mean, Zay
Yeah.
was clearly a rookie in this game.
And let me what grinds Alex's gears. Okay, we've covered the NFL closely all season long. Have we talked about taunting once this year?
Hmm.
And in the fucking AFC Championship game, with a trip to go to the Super Bowl, they throw a taunting flag, and what he did was not that egregious.
It was not.
I
I didn't even
cannot
know it was on
stand
him
that
at
shit.
first. They
Yeah,
did, I was looking to see who the taunting call was on when they threw that flag.
like why? Of
I
all
don't.
places, if you want to call that the preseason or week one, okay. But to call that in the AFC Championship game, a lot of people were like, Zay Flowers is stupid. Maybe so, a little bit, but emotions run high in a championship game. Like, I don't understand any league that wants to throw a taunting penalty, penalize a player for showing emotion in the biggest games of the season, right? I don't, I hate that shit.
Yeah, I mean, there were things he could have done. Like we saw, in NFL history, there have been celebrations that would be cause for a taunting penalty. I mean, pretending to pee on the Dallas Cowboys star, taunting. Like stuff like that, absolutely throw a flag. But what he did was so minor. And it's funny too because obviously you and I would get more off on this taunting call if it had affected the outcome of the game. But
Yeah,
I mean, the Ravens were completely handled in this. I mean, Lamar Jackson, he had a good season. I think he redeemed himself a little bit. I mean, MVP conversation has gone really well for him. He ran the ball team high 8 times for 54 yards. So he's now up there with Steve Young, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, and Colin Kaepernick as the only quarterbacks to rush for at least 500 years in the postseason or 500 yards in the postseason. So, Lamar kind of redeemed his postseason narrative a bit. However, I'm gonna put both of these losses on this championship weekend on the play calling and the coaches
yeah,
because I just
yeah.
don't understand what they were doing.
And I will give Lamar some criticism here, and I don't think it's entirely his fault. I think that is on coaching. I've given him so much praise all season long for the way he adjusted his game and became so much more patient behind the offensive line and going from, through his reads before just taking off to run. And I said it pregame. I believe I might have said it on the podcast, but I definitely said it watching with friends pregame that this is the type of game where Lamar might need to revert more to a one or two read and use his legs, right? What is Lamar's best weapon? What is his best threat against a defense that can cover really well? Credit to L'Jarius Sneed and that secondary,
Hmm.
McDuffie and those guys. But Lamar Jackson's legs could have been much more of a threat in this game than they were. And I felt like he was being so cautious, so patient that it actually came back to hurt him a little bit in this game. Did you see that?
Yeah, I think they were being too patient in this game, and I think he definitely was in his head a bit. I mean, but shout out to Steve Spagnuolo. I mean, his
Yeah.
scheme in this game was so good. I mean, he's been pressure heavy throughout the season, but I mean, they were on him. I mean, they blitzed him 20 times, pressure rate of 37. I mean, it was insane. That offense was under pressure the whole game. I mean, 4 sacks, 3 of 11 on third down conversions. 10 points allowed. I mean,
Yeah.
the Chiefs defense really pulled out in this game. And it's weird too, because as much as I get sick of certain players and the media narratives on the Chiefs, L'Jarius Sneed has been one of my favorite defensive players this season.
Hmm.
Like I saw some sparks of fire out of him early in the season, and I just kind of latched on, but he had an amazing game here. But I mean, the Chiefs aren't winning this game without that defense being completely shut down. So their defensive coordinator, I mean, and the Ravens defense held pretty well for part of the game.
Yeah,
But I mean, Kansas
second
City,
half shutout.
yeah,
They
but
kept the Ravens in this game. It was the Ravens offense that no
yeah,
showed. And after a certain point, Lamar got frustrated and threw that interception into triple coverage in the end zone.
oh, it was so bad.
And that, to me, I tweeted after that, I said, that's the game right there. Like,
Mhm.
and that's where a more veteran quarterback, you just can't make that mistake there. It's like Jordan Love's throw at the end of that
Mhm.
Niners game. But Lamar, we expect more out of him, right? He's the MVP. He's not the young first year starter that Jordan Love was. Just a bad decision and a bad throw there, right?
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's a lot of pressure on himself and a lot of mental conversation that he's arguing with as well.
Hmm.
Because it was Super Bowl or bust for him this year. And I think this game didn't feel like they were going to pull off a comeback, and you could tell the pressure was getting to him here. And it sucks. But I mean, it was a mind game, and the Ravens lost.
Yeah, and the Chiefs are they're so good. And a
Mhm.
perfect example of that is Patrick Mahomes isn't going to play a perfect game. You know, he's never going to play 4 quarters of perfection. And scored 0 points in the second half. But when you need him the most, when the game's on the line and he has an opportunity to put you away, that's when he always seems to make the play. And on 3rd and 9, with a chance, if you get a stop here, a defense that shut you out the entire second half, if you can make a stop on 3rd and 9, you give Lamar the ball with a chance to go tie the game and send it to overtime. Instead, 3rd and 9, Mahomes throws it deep, and they catch it, and that's the game,
Yeah.
right? And that's just how special he is. That he doesn't need to play perfect, but when it comes to the biggest moments with an opportunity to take your throat out, he always seems to come through.
Yeah, and I mean, shout out to Travis Kelce in this game, because
Hmm.
he had an epic postseason game. I mean, 9 of 9 targets in the first half for 96 yards, beautiful touchdown. And you and I have talked a lot about how you don't bet against Andy Reid in the postseason.
Yeah.
And, we talked about this a little bit with Chad Brown about how staying great is harder than getting there. Like having one great season, but staying repetitively good year after year is much harder. And I mean, we've seen Andy Reid come back and do this, how many years is this in a row now that they've been here? Like that's insane. Um,
Fourth Super Bowl appearance in 5 years.
I mean, that's Andy Reid is not someone to be trifled with. I mean,
Yeah.
but Travis Kelce now ranks first in playoff receptions. He's tied for first in 100-plus yard receiving games in the postseason and trails only Hall of Famer Jerry Rice in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns in the playoffs. I mean, he had a game, and we know Travis Kelce is good. Granted, a lot of football fans are kind of sick about hearing of seeing his face and hearing about him for non-football related things this year, but everybody can recognize he is an insane football player. So I think we just saw a lot of experience pull this one off. And yeah, just some great, cool-minded coaching versus some questionable play calling.
Yeah, and yeah, Travis Kelsey played so well. I think we thought Taylor Swift was playing in the game. They were showing her on the broadcast so
Oh
much,
my God, so much.
but
But hey, my daughter liked it, and her little friends were excited, and they kept shrieking and running up behind me and yelling every time they showed her. So at least,
oh my
football's
god,
reaching new fans. That's good.
I hate it though. I mean, I understand it, and it's cool. That's great for kids, to have something to latch on to and enjoy. But me as an old school football fan,
Mhm.
I just want to watch football, and like the NFL these days panders to the new fan so much. You know what I mean?
Well, okay, so on that note, I mean, you and I have joked on and off about the NFL being scripted all season whenever things don't go our way. Um,
Yeah.
but is it a little suspicious that the world's most well-known, highest grossing artist of the moment, um, starts dating someone from a team and that team happens to make it to the, football's biggest stage this year. Is that suspicious to anyone else?
I think that I don't think so in the fact that it's their fourth Super Bowl appearance in 5 years. I
I
think
know.
that kind of like when Dennis Rodman, who was he dating? Madonna
Mhm.
or I forget,
I think
but
it was Madonna.
yeah, I mean, like when you're a great player on a great team, stars, are attracted
I
to
know.
that, and when you
I think that's
win,
how Taylor Swift knows of him, but
yeah.
I'm still gonna joke about it.
And my question is, I mean, no one has repeated as champs since 2004, New England Patriots. The Chiefs have a chance to do that. I'm rooting for the 49ers like crazy, but they're getting into that rare, era, of just sustained success. And I mean, if they win another one, that'll be 3 rings for Mahomes already. So
Mhm.
I like parity, and I think that it would be really cool to see Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy going kind of. I compare it to a Kurt Warner run. I've been calling him the greatest show on grass. I would love to see this 49ers team win it, but it's going to be a hell of a matchup, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is the ninth rematch of the Super Bowl matchups in history. So 4 years after they last faced off in Super Bowl 54. And it's interesting too, because like you look at these two teams who are playing in the Super Bowl, and over a 4 year period in the NFL, there is a ton of player turnover. But
Yeah,
these two teams, I mean, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelsey, Chris Jones again, and then George Kittle, Nick Bosa, Debo Samuel. Like these are all players that, have already met in a Super Bowl.
yeah.
And Kansas City won that one 31-20. So
But
it'll be
it was closer than the score indicates too. That was a hell of a game.
yeah, it was. But I like I mean, because any four like look at the Packers 4 years ago. It was a completely different roster. Like the Bears, like most teams have done way more turnover than these two teams. So it'll be interesting to see how those players who know each other so well at this point.
Yeah.
Um, But I mean, do you want to move on to the other game, or do you have any other thoughts on this one that you wanted to wrap up?
One last thought. Chiefs defensive end Charles Omenihu, who had a strip sack of Lamar Jackson and was playing pretty well, suffers a torn ACL in that game and will miss the Super Bowl. So that could be a key loss, and it sucks for Charles Omenihu.
Yeah, that's a tough loss. I do think that it shouldn't affect them too much. I mean, we've seen them kind of overcome other losses throughout the season.
Yeah.
So they should be okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
they could be, but for him personally, it sucks to get
yeah,
this
that
far in.
absolutely sucks.
Yeah.
I hope he still gets to feel like he's a part of that game and a part of the experience there.
Yep. So, all right, let's go Lions 49ers. And this game was crazy. The Lions jump out to a 24-7 halftime lead, and they were dominating. Like, they were running all over them. They picked off Brock Purdy. They were finishing drives with touchdowns. What did you think? I mean, it looked like the Niners were in trouble in that first half.
I mean, it didn't feel finished. It felt like they just forgot to wake up. And as much as I was pulling for Detroit for the comeback story, it wasn't like at halftime, like it didn't feel like Detroit was going to run away with it. Like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I mean, who was
Yeah.
it? Was it George Kittle who was joking around on the sidelines, and he was mic'd up and he said to someone, he's like, I can't wait till the end of the game when I can say, oh, I'm not gonna lie, they had us in the first half, and at the end of the game he got to say it. And I mean, yeah, it was two very different halves of a game. I mean, and we talked about this in the preview. I mentioned how the 49ers have been dominating Detroit in their recent matchups. I mean, they've won 11 out of the last 12, 10 consecutive games against the Lions when they're playing at home. I mean, the Lions also, they've lost 5 out of their last 7 against an opponent from the NFC West. So the Lions do not play well against that division. And now it's, 6 out of their last 8. So I kind of had a feeling, as much as I was pulling for the Detroit storyline, it didn't feel finished at halftime. Did you think the Lions were going to run away with it?
No, I agree. I felt like a 49ers run was coming. I was pissed off that the Niners allowed themselves to get down 17. I tweeted that I was shocked and surprised at the way the Lions were dominating the offensive line, especially. Like they were gashing the 49ers. That first touchdown took like less than 2 minutes. That Jamison Williams touchdown, and they were running on them. And it looked like, I felt like a 49ers run was coming, but I also felt like Detroit would have to do something stupid to allow it. And what do you know?
What do you
Um,
know?
Dan Campbell said at halftime, "We have to finish. This game isn't over. We have to come out with the same intensity and finish these guys." Kind of feeling like he knew a Niners run was coming as well. So let's go through this second half and kind of try to explain this here. So the 49ers come down to start the second half and they kick a field goal. So they cut it to 2 scores right there. They're down 3 scores at halftime. They cut it to 2 scores. The Lions move down. They get into field goal range. It would have been a 46-yard field goal. And to me, my thought process is this: you just allowed a field goal to cut it to 2 scores. In this situation, I kick the field goal because not because of being anti-analytics or not because 4th and 2 isn't something that you can convert. I understand having confidence to convert 4th and 2, but a field goal here is huge because it puts you back up 17, back up 3 scores, and negates any positive momentum San Francisco had gained from that field goal to start the half, right?
Yeah, I mean, we we have questioned Dan Campbell throughout the season. Obviously, for most of the season, their aggressiveness and his stubbornness have paid off. I mean, they made it to the NFC Championship game. So
Hmm.
obviously his style this season has, worked. They've prided themselves on winning with determination. And, I mean, that's how they won against the Rams with aggressive calls. I mean, over Tampa Bay as well. But I mean, in this game, we see Josh Reynolds drop a very catchable pass on fourth down. Goff failed to get the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown that, would have led to a field goal to tied the game there at the end. I mean, and the decision to attempt a field goal, I, I don't,
Well, this
I
is
don't know.
my thought process. If you know that a 49ers run is coming, like everyone seemed to know, and Dan Campbell sure as hell should have known that. I'm sure Lions fans or Lions players had a feeling that the Niners are so good, they're going to make a run here. They're not going to roll over and die. So if you've got an opportunity to go back up 17, I
Yeah,
think you have to do it. And a lot of people are sharing, saying, well, uh, what's his name, their kicker? Uh,
Badgley,
huh?
Badgley.
Yeah, Badgley, that he isn't a good long ball kicker. But this was 46 yards. If you go into the playoffs with a kicker who can't make a 46-yarder, you're asking for trouble. As a Bears fan, I'll tell you,
Are
you
you
have to.
attacking the Packers right now?
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a kicker, and Jake Moody missed a kick in the first half as well. So you have to trust your kicker. And so to me, I understand you go for it there, and it's on Josh Reynolds, right? He dropped the ball. But to me, as a head coach, what I want in a head coach is I want someone who has some understanding of a big game and know that if you don't convert that fourth down, you're allowing a huge momentum shift, and your lead could go from 3 scores down to 1 score in a hurry, and that's exactly what happened. They had that deep ball that goes off of Kindle Vildor's face mask, and Brandon Ayuk makes that diving catch. That was a hell of a play, wasn't it?
I mean, it was beautiful. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, there were some great highlight plays from this game. I mean, just balls to the wall plays.
So
Um,
that cuts it to 1 score. In the very next possession, your boy Jameer Gibbs gets the ball ripped out and a fumble lost. And right then, that's when I said, "Uh-oh, here we go." That
okay,
fumble
and
by
and you
Gibbs.
did text me and say the momentum has shifted. Here comes the Niners or whatever you said. But you say that every game, like, oh, here's the comeback, and
Well, I
usually it's
finally
not
got
true.
one right.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I didn't pick the Lions to win this one, but if we were looking at the best storyline left in the postseason at this point, I mean, it was the Lions. But I mean, the 49ers, they deserve to go to the Super Bowl after this one. I mean, Purdy, he's interesting. I mean, I think this game perfectly defines who he is as a quarterback. I mean,
hmm
he takes some really questionable throws sometimes. I
He's
mean,
got a lot of confidence. He's not afraid
he's
to rip it in there.
no, he's real confident, but sometimes you're like, oh my God, why did he throw that? I mean,
Yeah,
closing rush, like he threw a pass directly into a rusher's hand.
yeah.
Like that interception was awful. Like it was insane. But that was very Brock Purdy of him. But also, I mean, that completion to Ayuk that you mentioned, that should have been intercepted. The fact that Ayuk caught that was insane. I
I
mean,
think it's interesting because I think if it is intercepted, I think they call defensive pass interference there. But
yeah.
because it wasn't, then they let it go.
I mean,
Uh,
that deflection off Vildor's face mask, like it was just beautiful. Like the way that worked out, like that was a lot of luck in that one.
do you think with the turnovers on downs, the bad decisions by Dan Campbell, the ball bouncing off of Vildor's face mask, do you think Lions fans are going like, we're just cursed? Like,
I
this was
mean,
our
wouldn't
best
you be?
opportunity ever to get to a Super Bowl and we lose in that fashion?
You know what's interesting though is I think you and I have had a lot of questions about Jared Goff as the quarterback. If you had to
hmm
ask me the one reason why Detroit lost, it's not Dan Campbell's fourth down decisions. It's not the offense. Detroit cannot tackle anyone in this game. The number of missed tackles we saw. I mean,
Yeah.
Purdy made an insane tackle diving run there to get the ball out to their fullback. I always
Yeah.
forget his
Use
name.
check. Yep.
Yeah, just tech. I mean, it they could not tackle anyone. I was counting missed tackles for a little bit. I got to 12 and then I gave up.
Yeah. And
Like,
the 49ers do force that a little bit. They have such great playmakers like Debo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, but also the Lions defense has been suspect this year too.
mhm.
And the momentum started to snowball and the Lions couldn't do anything to stop it.
Yeah, I mean, their defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn should have a lot of retrospection after this game because yeah, there was not much of a fight that they were putting up there. And I mean, Anzalone, who is Detroit's best linebacker,
Yeah.
he looked completely busted by Purdy. I mean, Purdy picked
Yeah.
up 21 yards on 3rd and 4 on a vital possession, and he just kind of slipped past. I mean,
Purdy, Purdy looked a little like Lamar Jackson at
yeah, he
times in
was
that second half.
slippery.
Yeah.
He was
I
slippery this
loved
game.
it.
Purdy had a great game. And honestly, I'm very glad that the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl. I mean, the Brock Purdy missing out on, what 90% of the game last year. I mean, that sucks. Like
hmm
I'm very glad he gets his, redemption arc and he gets to go to the Super Bowl. Also, whatever team knocks my team out, like if you're gonna knock the Packers out in the divisional round, you better go to the Super Bowl and win. Like, don't knock us out by 3 points, like, and then do nothing with it. How depressing is that when your team loses to a team and then the team gets their butt kicked the next week? You're like, man, if we had just put up, a couple more points, like one more field goal, then we could be in the Super Bowl. Like, are you kidding me? So I like the way this turned out. I do think the blame here is definitely on Detroit's defense. I think this offense has a very strong chance of returning and being just as good or better next year. Some of these rookies are going to have, kind of found themselves a bit more this postseason. I think they're going to have a great run next year if they can address some of the issues on defense. Um,
Real
so
quick to that point, there's two quarterbacks that played well this year, played better than expectations, and are looking to get paid. And the money that they're looking to get paid is a lot of money.
mm,
Your boy Baker Mayfield looking to get paid and extended in Tampa Bay, and Jared Goff in Detroit, both looking at it looks like their contracts are going to be 40 million a year. How do
Good.
you feel about those contracts for I'm sure you are happy for Baker Mayfield, but do you think it's smart for either team to invest 40 mil a year in either of these two quarterbacks?
So I wish they had one more season
Yeah,
of like, I think Baker Mayfield has found a good fit, and I think he's going to continue improving. But I mean, we've seen what Goff can do on other teams, and like we know where he's at now. But I feel like if you're going to offer someone 40 million, you need two back-to-back good seasons that you've seen.
yeah,
And as much as I love the idea of Baker Mayfield finally getting, the praise that I think has been sorely undergiven throughout his career,
yeah.
um, I
That's a
do
lot of
think
money.
it's a lot of money for like one good postseason run. And like they
Yeah.
lost in the divisional round. Like Goff makes more sense. We've seen Goff do it before. And I am very biased when it comes to Baker Mayfield, but I really think it should have been after next season. Like, can you take him to the postseason again next year? Like, that's what I want to see before you give up 40 million a year. Because that's so limiting for a team. Like, I mean, having to restructure other contracts to bring in the key players that you need to fill in the hole so you can make it further after offering
Yeah.
the quarterback 40 million. I mean, as a Packers fan, we dedicated so much money into Aaron Rodgers contracts that we had to, find some ways to fill some holes without bringing in those key big playmakers that we could have used on defense. So I think you need a couple years back to back of proving how good you are before you should be paid that much, just to make sure you're worth the money.
I agree. I mean, look at Geno Smith.
Hmm.
He had a great run last year. He led the Seahawks to the playoffs, and then he got paid. And now there's been some talk about should they go with Drew Lock? Do they need to upgrade the quarterback position? Is Geno the guy going forward, right? Um, Similarly, I don't feel great about paying either of these guys 40 mil a year. Uh, I like Baker. I'm rooting for him, but it's risky.
Hmm.
And no way in hell am I paying Jared Goff 40 mil a year. Like,
Yeah.
I know that I've been critical of him, and he's had a career year. He has, and he didn't turn the ball over really at all in this playoff run. But do I think that my biggest thing on Jared Goff is consistency? And do I think he's going to continue to play at this high of a level? No, I do not. And even at times this year, right, we've seen him have some bad games where he lost to Chicago, where he lost to Green Bay on Thanksgiving,
Hmm.
getting blown out by Baltimore. I don't know. I think it's very risky to pay either of these two quarterbacks that much money. So both these teams have some interesting decisions to make going forward. And real quick to get back to this game, um, don't you think that they should have? So the Niners are on a 20 straight point run, and they just take the lead. They're up 27-24 in the fourth quarter with 7 minutes left. And then the Lions decide to go for it on 4th and 3. Don't you think of all times they should have kicked it there to tie the game and break the Niners' 20-point run?
I was yelling at Dan Campbell on that
Yeah,
play. Like that was insane to me. Like if you have an opportunity to tie the game
yeah,
in the fourth quarter, you freaking tie it.
yeah,
It's insane to me that like we've seen coaches, Dan Campbell especially, do that so many times this season. Like I get analytics exist for a reason, but oh my God, teams that are losing games by 3 or less points after not taking the field goal and going for it on fourth down and not converting make me absolutely insane.
you deserve to lose, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're
Yeah,
gonna play call and just, like that's gambling. Like there were
yeah,
so many questionable decisions by Dan Campbell that we saw throughout the season. Most of them paid off.
yep.
However,
How
in
about
a game like this is it. I understand analytics
to go to
and
the
like,
Super Bowl? Yeah,
yeah, like put your ego aside for the fourth quarter. Do what you got to do the first 3 quarters, be yourself. I know, Dan Campbell is who he is. But if it's between your ego and your style of coaching versus tying the game to potentially go to the Super Bowl in the fourth
exactly.
quarter, you
Yep.
suck it up, and you take the points.
I mean, it's similar to that loss to the Cowboys, right? Where he refused to kick the
My
extra
God,
point.
going for it 2, 3 times in a row after
Yeah.
some of the weirdest refereeing I've ever seen.
And then I don't think a lot of people are talking about this decision. Late in the game, you're down 10. They're trying to score a quick touchdown with about a minute left, and they still have 3 timeouts left. So to me, it's very valuable to keep those 3 timeouts, score as quick as possible, even if you have to kick a field goal, right, to cut it to one score, and then kick it deep. Don't onside kick it if you have 3 timeouts, and then you can hope to 3 and out, right, and stop the clock every time. But on 3rd and goal at the 1 yard line, the Lions decide to run it with David Montgomery. He gets stopped for a loss of 2, and they're forced to take a timeout there. I think that was a huge mistake in that game right there. You can't afford to run it there. I think you need to be throwing it every down. Losing a timeout there ended the game after they couldn't recover the onside kick.
Yeah, I think it was just a lot of just poor decisions at the end of that game. And it was very frustrating as someone who was kind of rooting for the Lions to win this one.
Hmm.
But I mean, if you need to preserve time on the clock, we're not going to hand the ball off and run for 2 or 3 yards. You can't do that.
Yeah,
You need to
I get
throw
it.
it to the side, let them get out of bounds.
They're a great running team. You got David Montgomery. You're at the 1 yard line. You think that you should punch it in for a touchdown, but that's where time and game management, understanding the clock and situations needs to overpower that, right? I mean,
There is a time and a place for the run game, and that was not it.
yeah. Dan Campbell needs to learn from these mistakes. I feel like there was a lot of them in this
Mhm.
game, and it wasn't just him. Josh Reynolds had multiple drops. They need to address the kicker, right? If you can't trust your kicker, then you have to upgrade the kicker to someone you can trust.
Yeah.
Robbie Gold's sitting at home right now, and he's never
Love
missed a playoff
postseason
kick.
Robbie Gold.
Yeah, I mean, so the Lions, with all those mistakes in the second half, I hate to be that guy, but they deserve to lose this game. And the Niners, with a great comeback, 17-point comeback, 27 straight points
Hmm.
in
Tied
the
for the
second
third
half.
largest comeback in a conference championship game in NFL history.
Yeah, so incredible. And we'll see if the Niners can snowball that, take momentum from that comeback into the Super Bowl, or at least have the confidence to be like, if we get down early, we can still come back and win?
Yeah, I mean, and one more win for the Niners. They joined New England and Pittsburgh as the only franchises with 6 Lombardi trophies.
Wow. If they
So,
win,
if they win.
yeah, yeah.
But I mean, if the Chiefs win, they become the first team to win back-to-back Super Bowls since the 03-04 Pats. So, you
To
know,
me, I can't wait for this game, and it's a huge narrative game, in my opinion,
mhm.
because if Andy Reid and Mahomes win, it only strengthens their all-time great legacy. Andy Reid is already cemented, but it'll just, put him in damn near Bill Belichick territory, like really high up there in all-time history. And Mahomes, he needs every Super Bowl he can get. We all know who he's chasing. Tom
Yeah.
Brady with 7 rings. And so to get a third this early in his career is very valuable to him. But on the other side, we got Kyle Shanahan, who blew as offensive coordinator, blew that 28-3 game to Tom Brady and the Patriots, blew a lead to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. He needs a Super Bowl win, as great as a head coach as he's been so far, and coordinator he's been all of his career. He needs a Super Bowl win. Otherwise, they're going to start saying, hey, you're good enough to get us there, but are you good enough to win one, right?
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out because
Mm-hmm.
everyone is a fan of what they've been doing until they don't win the Super Bowl. And then
Yeah,
it's so much negative narrative.
yeah. And then
Right.
Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, a chance. I mean, what if he comes away with Super Bowl MVP? The storylines would be crazy.
Hmm. He's gonna
and
try to
then
be
we
the
can,
third Mr. Irrelevant to win a Super Bowl. Marty Moore in the 2001 Patriots and Ryan Suckup, 2020 Buccaneers. I mean,
damn, and
it's
that'll probably get rid of those stupid game manager arguments with Brock Purdy. And what will that do for? I mean, that's a huge legacy game for him too. I mean, you beat Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. That's huge.
yeah, I would love that for Purdy. Also, I mean, the only other player to win a Super Bowl and play in two conference championships in their first two seasons is Big Ben.
Wow.
So if he wins, I mean, him and Big Ben are alone at the top there. And
Yeah.
he's 4-0 in playoff games he starts and finishes. Obviously,
Yeah.
last year he had a pretty upsetting end to his season, but I mean, so far he's undefeated in the postseason in games that he plays the whole game. So,
Are you more confident in think back to 2019 and those 49ers and Jimmy G leading the team? Are you more confident in this team with Brock Purdy or that team with Jimmy G?
I I would say this team, but it's not because of the quarterback.
Yeah.
I trust this defense more. I think their receivers are clicking better this season than they were that year. And I'm
Hmm.
not a big Jimmy G guy. I feel like you could have plugged any quarterback in onto that 2019 team and been pretty much fine. I do think
Then
Brock Purdy has really broken out and shown who he is this postseason. Obviously, there's been a lot of conversations about like, oh, they could have anyone at quarterback there this year. But I mean, postseason Brock Purdy has looked pretty damn good.
yeah, he was clutch against Green Bay. Even though he struggled at times, he came through in the clutch. Even in this
Yeah.
game, he threw a first half pick, but he was
And recovered
clutch.
beautifully.
Yeah, and got the team to the Super Bowl, which he failed to do last year, unfortunately getting hurt. So who cares about anything else? If he comes up in the clutch in the Super Bowl and out clutches Mahomes, the narrative on Brock Purdy is going to swing. It's going to do a complete 180, and he's going to be crowned. And that would be a crazy storyline this offseason. All the talk will shift, and Brock Purdy will be the new man.
Yeah, I mean, how many quarterbacks have beaten Mahomes in the postseason? What, Tom Brady and Joe Burrow?
Yeah, that's
It?
it.
Like,
And we know those guys are special. We know Tom
what a
Brady is,
great
and
list to be added to.
yeah, and we think that Joe Burrow is pretty damn special. Um, and you only get right. Dan Marino only got one shot at a Super Bowl, so
Mhm.
you never know, Brock Purdy, if this is your one shot. So go make the most of it. I've been rooting for this Niners team all year, calling them the greatest show on grass, comparing Brock Purdy to Kurt Warner and Christian McCaffrey to Marshall Fultz. So, uh, come on, Niners.
Yeah, I'm rooting for the Niners here just because you take my team out of the running, you better do something with it.
Yeah.
So like nothing against the Chiefs. I think that, they deserve to win as much as anybody. Um,
Are you sick of the Chiefs at all?
no, I mean I'm married to a Broncos fan, so there's a lot of Kansas City hate in my house. But I don't
Hmm.
really care. And I love watching L'Jarius Sneed. I think he's amazing. Like he is just so wily. And I feel like he's clairvoyant because some of his tackles and the routes that he runs where it's like he knows exactly where people are going. And it's beautiful to watch. Like I know a lot of people don't kind of zero in on defensive players in games, but I mean in one of these games, just take the time to watch how he moves and how he mirrors whoever he's on. His movements are just so dead on and he's laser focused. Nothing distracts him. So he's probably top three favorite defensive players this season. So that
Yeah.
being said, we root for him quietly in my house.
I
But
like
yeah,
Snead. I think L'Jarius Sneed might be the only Kansas City Chief player I like.
same.
Like,
I mean, not that I dislike anyone. Like, obviously, as a woman, we can recognize Travis Kelce is a very pretty man. But I mean, Mahomes is fine. I don't have any like I'm pretty indifferent to the Kansas City team, but I really like him. Sneed, that is. So, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And then on the other side of the ball, I mean, Christian McCaffrey in this game is going to be so fun to watch. I mean, we
Hmm.
saw him kind of leading the MVP conversation until Lamar Jackson like really showed up. I mean, the last month of the season, Lamar was on fire. So pretty much the shoe-in NFL MVP. But it'll be interesting to see how close McCaffrey is trailing him in voting because he's been consistently productive all season. And this this season he's been the MVP of that San Francisco team. So while Brock Purdy really pulled off this game for them, I do think McCaffrey deserves a lot of recognition.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and it kind of sucks for him that Lamar really pulled his season together there at the end because I was really excited for a non-quarterback to win MVP, but I do think Lamar has earned it at this point.
Yeah, you go back to some people were saying that it was a bad trade for the Niners when they acquired Christian McCaffrey, and it's been the complete opposite. He's been such a game changer for that offense, and we said it at the time. How do you defend Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk? And that's going to be the ultimate test for the Chiefs defense because you could make the case that they're unguardable, right? I mean, so talented. And all the one thing I worry about is the Chiefs getting the benefit of the officiating, which they seem to do, which makes me hate them. Um, Kelsey and Mahomes and all the commercials, which makes me
Hmm.
dislike them. And you know, give me George Kittle and Brock Purdy. Like
Yeah.
all the hype around Travis Kelsey as the greatest tight end and better than Gronk, blah blah blah. Give me George Kittle. I'm a
I
George
love
Kittle
George
fan.
Kittle.
Yeah,
He's funny.
yeah, he's a dog. Remember last time when they lost and he vowed he's like, I'm gonna get back here and win it.
Yeah.
And I
I
hope they
love the
do.
redemption arc.
Yeah, and I like Kyle Shanahan. And so I'm team 49ers. And it's gonna be regardless. I think it's gonna be a great game. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout either way.
Yeah. The one thing I will say I'm concerned about for the 49ers is they were great. They were third during the regular season against the run on defense.
Yeah,
They allowed an average of 89.7 rushing yards per game. However, in the past two matchups, they allowed 318 yards to the Packers and Lions.
yeah,
So they almost doubled what they've been allowing for the regular season compared to these past two matchups, and that's not a good look. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco, we've seen have some amazing breakout games. I mean, the Chiefs also have Edwards-Helaire who can have some big numbers too. So
hmm
that run defense needs to tighten things up.
yeah. The honestly, I mean, my game plan is around Travis Kelsey.
Yeah.
I say do what you have to do to stop Travis Kelsey, and then hope that Pacheco. You're gonna have to gang tackle Pacheco. He's gonna be a
Mhm.
problem for sure.
Yeah.
This game might turn into a shootout. The Niners are gonna have to put up points, and I recognize how good the Chiefs defense has been, but I just feel like the Niners are capable of putting up points at a massive clip. So.
Yeah. And another thing that'll be interesting is Mahomes has played in six consecutive postseason games without throwing an interception. He's the first quarterback in NFL history um,
Wow.
to go, that many games in the postseason in a row without throwing a pick. Also, the first quarterback to start four Super Bowls before the age of 30. So if that San Francisco defense can get a pick and kind of set him off his game, kind of get him in his head. I mean, he hasn't thrown a pick in so long. I feel like that would really kind of mess with his focus. That would be absolutely vital to pulling off a win. If they could do that, I feel like they could completely shift the momentum onto their side. I mean, I know Mahomes is fallible. Like we've seen him have some really sloppy games. Um,
Yeah. And so he
so there's a chance.
he hasn't thrown what an interception you said in six straight,
Six straight postseason games.
and so his Super Bowl stats: career 3 games, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
Hmm.
So that's a big thing. Again, we say it every big playoff game. Turnovers are going to be huge.
Yep.
So We
We
can't
did.
wait.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hell of a game, and we should be able to get a Super Bowl preview out next week before the big game, and hopefully have a big interview. We'll see if we can get one on the slate. But appreciate you, coming on all season long, Amanda. It's been a great run, and we got one more game to go.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been great to be a part of this and to stick it out with you. I mean, you did take the postseason because I told you we would agree on most postseason games. We disagreed on what, three? And you
Yeah.
you won two of them. So you did win the postseason. I kicked your
Yep.
ass in the regular season, but it'll be good to see how next season plays out. I feel like we need to make our score picks on the next one so we have a little something something that we disagree on. What we think
Yeah,
the final score is going to be.
because we're both going Niners, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I told you
we'll
we were going
do.
to agree all postseason.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised by that too.
Yeah, and
I had to
I
switch up and go Texans over Cleveland just to switch it up.
well, just like I took the Packers over the Niners just because, I wanted to have a little something different. So,
Yeah, but your heart was in that one. You were always gonna pick with your heart on
listen, I picked the Chiefs against the Packers in the
that.
regular season, and I was rooting for the Chiefs, and then the Packers won, and I was like, "Oh darn, I was wrong. Yay." It was a very confusing season for me, guys.
I think you should pick the Bears against the Packers next year.
No. Are y'all even gonna have a quarterback?
Hey, we might have Fields, we might have Caleb Williams with
Well,
the
apparently
Bears.
Caleb
You
Williams
never
doesn't want to
know.
go to Chicago, if you believe, the narrative that's going around right now.
No, that's bullshit.
They
Don't
say
listen
that
to
every
Colin
year.
Cowherd of all people.
That comes out every year about the number one pick not wanting to go somewhere. And then it comes to
Yeah.
draft day, and the kid is stoked. He did not care what team he went to.
Yeah, he gets to go number one overall. Like he don't
Yeah.
care. So, but
But
all right. Well, yeah, we'll be back next week. Then we can start our draft coverage after the Super Bowl. No one cares about the Pro Bowl because they don't play it anymore.
yeah,
So no one
flag
wants to watch.
football.
Yeah, no one wants to watch dodgeball. So good shit as always, Amanda. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a comment, everyone. Appreciate all you guys' support. Have a great week, guys. Peace out.